because people do have minds and people can think through answers. And you will see if you, even when you do become a research analyst, that if you put a buy rating on a stock, if people really believe that this guy does in-depth work, a lot of analysis, and really, then I should believe in it, then you will move stocks, right? But you will be, or if you want to be one of those analysts that people are very cynical about, sell-side analysts, what value does he add? Your career will not go a long distance. The second thing is that you need to have thought through the problem. Because I found that the moment you asked a question, there was a sense of disarray. Now I can realize that, as students we make presentations, we become nervous, we get nervous, my God, is there something that I haven't thought through? If you start showing that discomfort, you again lost the trust. Clearly you haven't thought through the answer, because in many cases you would have known about it. Or, simple things like, and this is why I deliberately looked at that FY 9 to 11 earnings, and I asked that to I think 4 of the 6 teams. Very simple. See, the best thing to learn about a company is to look back in history and see what has happened. Now they had 20% earnings sales growth, but the EPS was flat. Why did that happen? Right. So we've all done a lot of analysis on advertising growth. We've done a lot of analysis on subscription growth, but where are the costs? Right? So you can have 20% sales growth, but the profits could be flat. Finally, you're paying for profits, right? So the fact is that no one had a credible answer for why earnings were unchanged between FY 9 and 11. The first guess from everyone was, revenue growth suffered. Revenue growth didn't suffer because that's there in the table. Right? So it was something that went wrong, and actually FY 11 in particular, Z Sports was particularly loss-making. But you should have at least thought through that. Right? And the most important is focus on what matters.
Yeah.
Right? Because, and this was very clear, and I don't want to be, see, I may have come across as very harsh in my questioning, but when I take time out of my family life on a Sunday morning, I'm not getting paid for this. The reason I come here is to help you become better analysts. At least share my knowledge. Maybe my experience is not of value to you, but to the extent that I can, I want to point you in the right direction. That don't make obvious mistakes. Right? So we need good quality analysts. And so what I've found is that that's for the disclaimer before the comment on a specific team. So the last team, I think the introduction was attention grabbing, which is very important, right? And as a part of a research analyst, this is what I tell excuses to the ladies here, that I call the Kareena Kapoor angle. If a research team member in my team puts out a great piece of research, he's done phenomenal in-depth work, but the front page, which is what people read, 10 minutes is a lot of time. Most of the time, when say I present to Navneet, I have 2 minutes to present, right? Otherwise, I lose his interest, right? So, what you say in those 2 minutes will sort of increase his inquisitiveness, increase his interest level in the next 6-7 minutes that you have to talk. So the start was very good. This was what the country was about. This is what when the company started. But then I found the whole presentation was backward looking. Look, you have 10 minutes to tell me new things. Assume that the person in front of you already knows something about the company. You cannot assume that he knows nothing about the company. So if you spend too much time focusing on what the company has done in the past, and all the value in the stock is going to come from what's going to happen in the future, then you've not added any value. Right? So you've told me a lot of new information, but hasn't helped me in my investment decision. What people also do is they analyze the data they get, not the data that it should be analyzing. So advertising, as you must have seen, is 53% of revenues. But other than one team, no one had done bottom-up work on how much the spending growth will happen. There was one team which mentioned they'd done some 40-50 companies advertising expenditure and how that will grow. Otherwise, the rest of them were focusing on digitization, which is important, but advertising revenue growth is going to be critical for the next 2 years. Right? So where is the bottom-up analysis on that? Because the company's presentation, I'm sure, focused on digitization, so you got swayed into that direction. advertising analysis, revenue analysis would have been much harder to do. So you focused on digitization. So everyone focused on digitization. There is no analysis on advertising revenue. There is no analysis on costs. There is no. There was only one team which said that look, they're being forced to launch channels like Yodha Akbar and all that because of the pressure coming from other channels. There was one team which talked about international channels coming in, but there should have been much more focus on costs. Yeah, because that is where you make your money, you make your margins. Now, what happens is we have this innate tendency, and this is if you read this book Thinking Fast and Slow, which I would strongly recommend to all of you, given that you're students. There is a system 1, there is system 2. System 2 requires a lot of energy. System 1 is very instinctive things, but system 2 requires a lot of thought. So, because doing analysis on advertising revenues is going to be difficult, very few people did it. Because doing analysis on costs is very difficult, very few people did it. Right? But those are the things that matter. So, if you have 10 minutes to present, as Jayesh also mentioned, focus on the 3 key messages that you want to give to the person. Because he will remember you or she will remember you from those 3 things that, you could make the right call. But what you also need to do is be remembered for it. Remember that there are 60 brokers in India. Right? So, if I say that X stock is going up 20%, ZTV is going up 20%, and ZTV does go up 20%, at the end of 6 months and 12 months, the client has to remember that you had called it. Right? Because in all the noise, they're going to forget about it.
Yeah.
Right? So it is very important that you focus on the 3 things where you are most differentiated. These are the key messages. Just believe in these 3 and we'll have a right call. So there are lots of things to discuss, but these are 3 things that that are extremely important. Analyst credibility is all that matters. And you can lose it in one shot. Right? There are analysts whose careers have been killed by one research note. Right? So that's one. The second is you have to be thorough in your analysis. The third is analyze what matters, not what is available. Right? Let's stop.